everyone, welcome to part 2 of today's live stream. I did not intend for it to be a two-parter, but for some reason this camera decided to stop communicating. I don't know what happened, but as I expected, all I needed to do was restart OBS. So, yay! So as you can see, it's back to life. Hooray! So that was worrisome. I hope that it wasn't stuck for too long, because I am obviously looking down here and not at my secondary monitor over here all the time. I'm back from break, all refreshed, all stretched. I hope everyone else also enjoyed a nice break. Let's finish up the second hour of this stream. Yes, I was working on removing detail from these background sunflowers. So let's go back to what I wanted to do was work on this disc over here. I got these done. They're probably dry, but no, it feels a teeny bit damp still. So we're gonna go back over to this side, removing the detail in order to let it sit back in space. So the farther back it is, the less detail you can see, the less variety of color you can see. This is figuring out how, with watercolor, to create more separation between all the elements here. So I created a nice complicated scene, which is exactly what I wanted. For years and years and years, my goal with my art was to create more detail in my work. And then I got to that point and I'm like, man, this is really hard. So it's always lots and lots of work. But it's so worth it because I'm always satisfied with the piece. I have no regrets. And then even when it's been 5 years or longer since I created the piece, I'm still happy with it because I know that I did as much as I could at that time with the skills I had, with the tools I had. So that's what I'm doing now. That's why these pieces take forever. Someone on DeviantArt, when I posted a work in progress, they were like, when is it gonna be done? I was like, I don't know. I have no idea. So they said something like, see you next year when it's done. So it's like, see you then. And that's not too far off of that actually happened with this piece. I started this last summer. So I really hope to finish it this summer. I've got a couple weeks of summer left. Finish it this summer. Summer Gryphon complete. And if I can finish this, then my seasonal Gryphon greeting card series will also be complete. So this goes along with, I have a spring Gryphon, a winter Gryphon, and an autumn Gryphon that I've already finished. So this is the last one. I've got a little bit of paint seeping into this ray, so I'm using the edge of my towel and pushing with my fingernail just to try to stop it. Ooh, let me get some water. That's something I didn't do on my break. The water in my shaker bottle. I have my shake for lunch. Protein shake for lunch. Now there's water in here. Ah! Nice big glug of water. Refreshed. Refreshed and ready to go. Yeah, I think this is pretty good. It's getting nice and soft, but we're not entirely losing the color. It's just getting diffused into the space. I'm just trying to spread it out a little more nicely along this sunflower ray. Alright, let's let that dry, although I kind of want to put a little bit more brown right here, but if I'm going to learn anything from this one, messing with it too much is not going to help, so I think I'll just leave it. So what happened over here, I kept working it and working it and working it, And there's just these spots now that will not get dark. So I actually have some dark spots on top of this like light ghosty color. And last week I decided to just leave it. Let's just leave it. That's just how it's gonna be. That's the fun of physical media, actually, because sometimes there's things you just can't control. Okay, so letting that dry. There's still more I want to work on for this sunflower, especially right here, because these rays look like they're the same as these ones next to it, but these are supposed to be way farther in front, so you can see how much bigger they are than these ones. But let's flip it over again. Yeah, I think I shall soften this too. But maybe not the whole thing. Maybe just this outside part where there's lots and lots of detail. Because I think this is about the same distance away as this one. I mean, maybe it's a little closer, but let's work this one too. Just working the outside part. Yeah, that looks really nice. It's more of that little empty space. Filling that in. It looks like my camera is upside down, but it's actually that I am working on this piece upside down right now. I'm just getting more water as it seems like the brush dries. Working the water into the paint on the page, paint that's already been sitting on the page for weeks. Softening it up. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, let's leave that for now. Yeah, it does an excellent job. In fact, I think that it's a good thing that I did detail work first, let it dry, and then softened it. Because now we have that depth of field effect that we're used to from photography and videography, where the things in focus, you can see all the detail, and then as it goes farther out of focus, you can see some detail, but it's fuzzy. That's exactly what we now have going on. And that's, photography and videography is, I think, the basis of our visual language these days. So that's why I'm happy to let it inform my painting work. Because it definitely informs video games and other media too. Here I'm working, just a couple little spots of empty paper. I'm not trying to blur things, I'm just trying to take a little paint and move it into the blank spots on this big sunflower. Okay, now going back to working on the rays that are in the background of this sunflower. I thought I'd work on these ones that are the second row of rays, but I kind of like how it looks now, so I don't think I will touch it. Let's let it be. Still not getting as much separation as I'd like between the foreground and midground here, but maybe this is something that I'll resolve with ink. Because the only thing I think I could do is add more detail, but I already have so much detail in the foreground using watercolor that adding more watercolor just might make it muddy. Alright, so I think this is good. And this one's good. So let's work on this one in the middle. But this one is wet. So I'm going to turn it long ways like this. And I guess I'll start on the rays first. And a lot of them already are pretty softly worked. So I don't need to do too much here. Just tighten up some edges, I think. Here's where some more detail is showing. And up here I have quite a bit, though it's still pretty softly done. I remember saying I really liked these edges that I had going on these rays, but for the sake of the overall image, I'm basically eliminating them by softening everything. But I think it's worth it, because my goal is to tell my story as effectively as possible. So if a technique is not working to reach that end, then it has to go. I'll be really careful here though, because I love this overlapping shadow I've got going right here. I don't want to lose that. That's pretty good. I've got to let these dry before I move into that center disc. But here's another one we can work on. We'll work on the disc first because we've got some areas that are touching. So we're going to turn it all the way upside down. I realize this is, my camera's a little not angled to the way my desk is actually angled. It's a, oh, what do you call it? What kind of desk do you call this? It's a drafting table. So it's actually angled like this. So now I have angled my camera to be a little bit better for that. Okay, working on this disc here. Softening the details and bringing the paint into any empty bits of paper that have miraculously escaped paint up until this point. Alright, that's good. Has this dried enough? I don't think it has. This part didn't take very long. Oh, there's a little spot there. It's getting a hard edge right here. Bring that all the way to the edge of the disc. So there's not a random line there for no particular reason. Stretching and leaning back. I just need this to dry. I need these to be dry enough to work on this middle part. They're getting there. Just like a minute more maybe. And then of course this disc part is definitely not dry enough for me to work over here yet. Guess I will work on these. I've got the time, and there's not as much separation between this sunflower and the one right next to it and way in front of it. So maybe if I work on this part here, then it will help with that. And it also gives me something to do while I wait for those other areas to dry. That's pretty good. Look at this big blank spot right here. I'm trying to get rid of any paint here. Just want it to fill in this little blank spot. That's better. Okay, maybe these are dry enough. Feel pretty dry. Let's try it. Gonna work on it at an angle this time. This area is dry, but this is wet and this is wet, so work at an angle. I think maybe I want to add a little more brown here actually, because it's should be more in shadow from the griffin sitting here. I haven't used my brown yet, so I didn't wake it up very well. Actually bring more brown in here. Nice. Ah, maybe I actually want more brown. Unlike the other sunflowers, I am working the shadows here. I'm trying to get the shadows to be an appropriate strength for this scene, this little segment of the scene. I think I'll leave it there and let that dry. So that means I'm going to flip this over and work on the rays of this sunflower in the middle. Make sure I get all that brown paint out of my brush. Right now I'm avoiding the overlapping shadows. And then I'll come back and work within those shadows after this lighter part is dry. But over here, almost everything is in shadow, so I'm just gonna go ahead and work these. Working so small for so long, my hand is starting to ache a bit. It's another good reason to cut it back down to 2 instead of 3 hours. This is pretty tough to do 3 hours of highly detailed small work like this. It's good to take a break, and it's not just good to take a break for physical reasons. It's really nice to have a sleep in between work sessions, smaller work sessions, because then your brain can come up with new ideas or solutions to areas that were giving you problems, etc. Alright. I've got a dark halo going on around this sunflower, but can't really do much about that at this point. So this is gonna have to be also same thing going on here. It's just one of those interesting things about watercolor that's gonna be on here. I'm looking my illustration over, there's a little space right here that I can't seem to get these couple little spaces filled in. Maybe I just won't. Maybe this is an area for ink. It could be fine. This could be a little sparkle. A little dewdrop or something. That's fine. I'm so glad my camera hasn't frozen again. I wonder why it did that. This is a brand new, super fancy camera, so I don't want to have issues with, like, supposedly my best camera on the stream. And then these more simple, but they're not cheap, but simpler and less expensive than this one are more reliable. No, that's not how it should be. This is dry. Actually does feel dry. So just go in there now and get those shadow areas. It's really small space. In fact, I don't even think I need to do them all because it's just so small. I think it's fine the way it is. We definitely have better separation now between this sunflower in the midground and this sunflower that's kind of in between mid and foreground. It's the second closest sunflower to the viewer. I do think this has been an effective technique for that. I'm noticing some little halos here by this griffin's tail, so let's fill those in. Although that's a bit dark. I wonder if I can pull that up with my towel. Yeah. That's better. Well, now I'm looking at this one. I feel like I want to get this effect with the shading onto this and this sunflower, because the griffins will be casting a shadow. So this is still damp, I think, so let's work upside down again. First we'll work over here. And at the time I ended up doing wet on wet. Not on purpose, but now I want that same effect, so we're going to work that way here. Just try to get a bunch of shadow over on this side, the opposite side of where the sun is. In fact, the sun is supposed to be coming from behind as well. So not just from the side, but from behind. I'm just using my darkest brown straight from the well. No special mixing. I mean, we've got so many colors on the page already that it doesn't really need mixing. It's mixing on the page. Might be pretty good. It's not as dark as this one. We can take it a little farther. I'm adding the paint where I think it would be darkest and then spreading it out so that we get a nice soft shadow effect. Alright, let's let that dry and work on this one next. Try to get my camera more centered. That's pretty good. Whoop. Okay, same deal, wet on wet. So trying not to get too close to the feet, the paint on the feet, because I don't want to pull that color into the sunflower. I want those to stay separate. This is also doing nicely at obliterating some of that detail. And then some detail remains in the lighter areas. Looks like it's just me here now, but since I'm only streaming 2 hours, I think I'll still raid. Go chat with someone. See what everyone else is up to. Well, see what someone else is up to. Because streaming only 2 hours, I don't feel exhausted. So I don't feel like I want a huge break. I feel up to a little socializing here on Twitch, my fellow Twitch artists. I think that's pretty good. Let me turn it over this way so I can see it properly. I like that. I like how there's still the remnants of some of those detail lines that I drew showing through the darker overlay. I'm going to look at my lazuli bunting, which is the bird. Yeah, as I thought. Alright, so I've still got this little bit of white left here around the eye, and it shouldn't be white, it should just be a lighter blue. I'm going to take my smallest size 0 round brush, make sure it's as clean as possible, and just apply a teeny tiny bit of my lightest blue paint. I call it sky glue. Sky blue. I don't know what the official name is. It's sky blue. Apply a little bit in here. Perfect. It's lighter than the surrounding blue, but not white. Shouldn't be white. There we go. Yay! Now this griffin looks like it has dead zombie eyes, but once we put the little tap of gouache or white ink or something on top, then that will be resolved. Ooh, I just noticed a little spot that needs a little dark green. Look at this little spot right here. Well, you can't even barely see it, so small. Look at that. That triangle right there. Everything is super dark green and black, but somehow this triangle is escaping that. No, let's put a little bit of dark forest green in there. This is how you can tell I'm getting really close to the end, because I'm just finding little nooks and crannies to fill in. And I'm looking forward to coming back to this tomorrow with fresh eyes and a fresh mind, because it's so close to done. Maybe we'll just move on to ink. I don't think we'll do ink today though, because there's only 10 minutes left. I'll spend 5 minutes of that putting stuff away and getting other stuff out, so that would be a waste of time. So now I'm just going to keep looking for little areas like this where I can get some paint into an area where it magically did not get any paint yet. There's some areas where I'm keeping that sort of halo effect, like right next to this stem right here, because it looked like a nice highlight. And I'm pretty sure there is some paint on there from earlier layers. But I don't want to mess with it, because the overall effect of a little shine on it is really nice. I'm just looking it over some more for any more areas where I might want to add stuff. So maybe want to add more to this griffin here. I don't know. It might be alright though. Maybe down here. Let's do it. Let's add a little bit more. Let's add my darkest blue. Just to darken it up here, because the sun is coming from behind and over here. So this part should be pretty dark, because it's like the sun is on the opposite side of my hand, basically. I'm going to get my brush super wet. Plop this blue color down here and spread it out. I want it to be darkest down here. And then we'll have a nice transition. I'm using the tip of my brush to make little small feather shaped marks. Transition into the lighter areas, or just the other areas. I'm getting a bit of a line forming here, so I'm going to add some water so that it comes all the way down off the frame, out of the frame. Maybe we can even add. Not too much. Not too much. Just a few touches of black to really darken it up down here. Bringing it up. So we've got the transition happening. And bring it up into the neck and head a bit. If nothing else, it has lovely texture, this griffin. 6 minutes to go. What do I want to work on in 6 minutes? Could actually smooth some of these veins in the leaf. It's the same principle as the sunflower head, we'll call it. So if we're not seeing that much detail there, we probably wouldn't be seeing this much detail on the leaf either. So let's smooth some of these out too. And you can still see some. It's not completely gone. It's softened. Soften it up. So I suppose we should do the same thing back here. These ones are very detailed for how far away they are. Now let's use the smallest brush. I was using my 1. Let's go to the 0. Sometimes when I'm doing this technique, it doesn't seem like it's working, and that's how I know I need more water. Yes, this is actually working wonderfully. Yay! This one too. Little less detail. You're hearing that tapping. Aoife's having another dream. Awesome. I feel like I should do the same thing down here, even though I really like the detail down here, but as I said earlier, it's about the overall effect, so just because one area is really cool looking doesn't mean that it's serving the image as a whole. So let's smooth this out a little bit. Actually, it doesn't have those same cool shapes that I was really liking, but it doesn't look bad at all to have done that. Boom, nice. Perfect timing. We've got less than a minute left, so. And it looks like it's still just me, but for anybody watching the recording, I'm gonna hold this up for a little close-up view of what we worked on today. We did so much today. Worked on the background, worked on all the sunflowers, little more work on different areas of certain griffins, and yeah, main goal was creating more depth, but also attending to little details that have slipped through the cracks thus far. So yay! Another awesome session done. Hooray! And even with that technical issue midstream, at least it happened pretty close to break time, so it wasn't too disruptive, I hope. Let's see who I'm gonna raid with my little me, myself, and I. Let's see. I want to make sure it's just people that I'm following because I know that I trust their streams to have a similar vibe to mine. We haven't gone to see... Oh, it's hard to choose. I actually haven't gone to see many of these people in a while. I guess let's go see the damage. We haven't seen the damage in a while. I wonder what he's working on. Look on my phone. Ice Age Action, it says, and something else. So, let me move my painting and pull my keyboard out. And I'll point my tertiary camera at my illustration so it's still more visible. Boop. There it is. Okay. Let's raid. /raid the damage. And make sure I spelled it right. I think so. 2 M's. Yep. Boom. And it's just me. 1 viewer is ready. Well, let me thank everyone who joined me today, who's watching the recording, and Bickman2K specifically for donating the $20. That's double our goal. Just started today to Best Friends Animal Society. Thank you so much, Bickman. I'll be back again tomorrow at the same time. Remember, it's my new schedule, an hour later start than usual. I hope to see you then. But let's go raid. All right. The raid worked. I'm by myself. So if you are watching the recording, that's it for me. As I said, be back tomorrow. Thank you for watching.